Well, as promised, we scrambled the Jets on the 580 Sports Talk NFL Draft-stravaganza Part 3 as the Kansas City Chiefs moved up from number 95 to number 85 in the third round and used that pick on a cornerback. Noel Williams, cornerback from Cal, who led the nation with 7 interceptions last year, was a first-team All-American, a transfer from UNLV, who's shown in the ACC this last season. I had to really think about what league Cal was in before I said out loud what league they were in. Noel Williams is the pick, and it's a bit of a trend reversal, gentlemen, that the Chiefs would go corner this early in the draft, but clearly they saw a bit of a run on defensive backs happening in this third round, and they wanted to make sure they got a guy that they really liked. I'm Dan Lucero. Brendan Dworzinski and Spencer Dupuis are here to react to this pick and the trade that brought it to the Chiefs. And Brendan, I'll go ahead and start with you. Your first reaction to hearing Noel Williams, the newest Chief.
So I'm a little surprised the Chiefs went cornerback in this spot, but I mean, if they were willing to trade up a whole, 10 spots to go get him, clearly there was some buzz that he was going. Some interesting notes from Daniel Jeremiah on the NFL Network just now said that he thinks this is a huge steal because he had Noel Williams as his 54th overall player. He went at 85, so that was a lot of juice. And he said, calling to his sources around the league, he said, hey, I'm planting my flag on this guy. Like, what do you know about him? I kind of like him as a sleeper. And he said that a lot of people around the league told him actually he's a late riser. Like, there's late risers in the media and there's late risers among actual NFL draft people, like who work for teams. And apparently Noel Williams was in that latter class, obviously super productive. And the cool thing too, for me, is that a lot of his production came against good teams. He had 3 interceptions against Auburn. He had a pick 6 against Miami and Cam Ward, obviously the number 1 overall pick. So I like this pick. And look, more competition is never a bad thing. And if the Chiefs ended up with McDuffie in the slot, Fulton at one corner, and Noel Williams at the other because he's good enough right away to play that way, I'd feel pretty excited about this cornerback room.
I guess that's the question, right? Do the Chiefs view Williams as a day one starting option that would give them the option to move Trent McDuffie back inside where he was an all-pro in 2023? That is what makes this selection really intriguing. Typically, when the Chiefs draft a corner in the draft, it's day 3. It's a project. It's not somebody you think is going to start day 1. But if you moved up to get a guy who was an All-American in college, I think you're feeling like you're going to give him an opportunity to be an impact guy at the position moving forward. All of a sudden, that cornerback room looks really formidable with a solid veteran like Fulton added in with the All-Pro McDuffie and existing guys that have had success in the league, Jalen Watson and Joshua Williams. Spencer, let's go to you. What's your gut reaction to the Noel Williams pick?
I like it. Obviously, corner was a big topic of discussion throughout the NFL season on 580 Sports Talk. The lack of depth and the lack of ability for the guys that were the depth for the Chiefs. And they said, you know what, let's trade up. We see a run. We like this guy who, could fit in there to be at least a rotational guy this next season. And obviously, look, it didn't work last year with Joshua Williams, Najee Johnson, whatever they were trying to do, it didn't work. And they said, we need to do something about it. They didn't have the money to spend in free agency to go get a true number 2. They got Christian Fulton, who is a good player, but they didn't have the high money to get somebody else to play, to be a ball hawker right alongside Trent McDuffie. So let's do the next best thing. Let's get a guy we can get on a rookie contract. And I'm excited for this pick. This dude's a ball hawker.
I'm sure there will be some local folks a little disappointed that Jacob Parrish from Kansas State was sniped 1 pick ahead of where the Chiefs ended up moving up to pick. And you do wonder where Parrish was relative to Williams on the Chiefs board. could note
I honestly, guys, wouldn't be super surprised if he was right up there. I mean, when you've got folks like our buddy Matt Derrick and his podcast co-host Nick Jacobs from KSHB, who both had Jacob Parrish, they had him on their show, they had him in mock drafts for a while. Like, those guys are tied in. They know what they're talking about. I would not be surprised at all if Parrish was right up there near the top, either right above or right below Williams. But I like this player. I think this is a useful addition for the Chiefs.
Yeah, I really like how you've now turned cornerback into a strength. Where last year, and Spencer, you make a great point. It was a position where there was a lot of consternation last season, and they never did adequately replace what L'Jarius Sneed brought them in 2023 when they were so good defensively. They never replaced that element on defense. And that doesn't mean it was the wrong thing to move on from L'Jarius Sneed. Obviously, he wasn't nearly as effective in Tennessee, and he got an extra third-round pick out of the deal. But they never replaced that element. And now they're going to have the opportunity to maybe have Trent McDuffie be that element where he's the slot guy, or he can move around and be on your number one. You can be really flexible with how you use your best cornerback because you have guys who fit the rotation in some other ways. Noel Williams, cornerback Cal, is the pick for the Chiefs. They trade a 4th-round pick next year and the 95th pick to move up 10 spots for the 85th pick.
That was the Joe Tooney pick. That's what the Chiefs acquired for Joe Tooney. So
it was not even their own pick.
Like if you're essentially trading through a couple of degrees of separation, Joe Tooney, who you weren't going to extend anyway, and you get a starting caliber corner out of it, that's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, like the business in remembering that 4th-round picks were something that the Chiefs had in surplus. Packers just made a pick, Brendan. Want to talk about it? Savion Williams, wide receiver, TCU?
Yes, Savion Williams, wide receiver from TCU. The Matthew Golden pick was a little bit of a surprise because he's smaller than the Packers normally go with their 1st-round pick. Savion Williams is huge. He is a very large man. He's nearly 6'4". 2 times he was an all Big 12 honorable mention. Good player. My favorite wide receiver out of TCU in this draft was the LSU transfer Jack Besh. But Williams has some explosive ability. It is becoming readily apparent that Green Bay is ready to turn over the wide receiver room. And Christian Watson's probably not getting a second contract after he's going to miss pretty much this entire season with a knee injury. Romeo Doubs, hard to say. Kind of feel like they're ready to reset this wide receiver room. Williams would not have been necessarily right at the top of my wish list in terms of wide receivers, but if I'm not mistaken, he didn't qualify for the RAS, the relative athletic score, but he did run a 4.48 40-yard dash and has far above average height and weight, which is just so Packers. It's ridiculous. So I'm not super surprised. I'm not surprised by the player. I'm a little bit surprised Green Bay 2 wide receivers and 3 picks. This is like a brand new world for the Green Bay Packers. I'm not sure what to do with myself.
This is a funky round 3. There are a lot of guys that have gone off the board that I would have expected to hear their names much earlier. Guys like Landon Jackson out of Arkansas, a really nice ad for Buffalo at the 72nd overall pick. Jordan Birch was a guy we talked about on our earlier video tonight who slipped all the way to 78 for Oregon. There are also guys going like Pat Bryant goes number 74 to Illinois, or the Illinois product goes number 74 to the Broncos. And it makes some sense when you hear him compared to Michael Thomas, and you draw the obvious parallels with Sean Payton being the coach of the Broncos. But Pat Bryant going ahead of Jalen Noel and Jalen Royals of Utah State and some other wide receivers that are still on the board. That one was really surprising. Nick Martin going the pick after that to the 49ers. The 49ers still have some equity where you think, well, maybe they know something nobody else does. I didn't see Nick Martin above the 7th round in too many mock drafts, and he goes 75th overall to the San Francisco 49ers. So this has been an interesting round for sure. Let's double back on Jacob Parrish. He's the first K-State or KU product to come off the board in this draft. We expect more to come, maybe even tonight. But he goes number 84 to Tampa Bay. Jacob Parrish, Olathe North, and K-State. I really think he's going to have a good NFL career. He reminds me a little bit of DJ Reed. There's obviously the K-State connection there, but maybe a little bit unheralded earlier in the draft process. But somebody who's got good athleticism, good ball skills. I really think Jacob Parrish is going to have a fine career. I'm excited for him.
I again, to reference Daniel Jeremiah from the NFL Network, he was saying he really likes Parrish as a player. I know he's a guy who really, probably over the last month or so, I've seen a lot more folks who cover the draft, who cover the NFL, saying, "Hey, I kind of really like this guy." And the phrase Jeremiah used is, "He's a dog. He's got that dog in him." And yeah, I mean that is one thing that, for all of my complaints about the K-State secondary this past season, the one thing it wasn't a matter of effort. I think positioning and maybe some coaching was a concern, but I mean, the energy, the tenacity was certainly there, and it was absolutely there with Parrish. And it's hard as a corner too to look great, like in the game, and in terms of maybe statistical production, when the rest of your unit is not performing well, especially the safeties, which we know how much they struggled for K-State this year. But yeah, he's got some toughness. He's got some good ball skills. He's a good athlete overall. I saw him mocked middle of the third round pretty consistently, like everywhere by everyone. Like, yeah, mid third round sounds like the perfect spot for him. So value wise, it seems right on. Tampa Bay needs corners, man. They need defensive back help. So I think that's a really good fit for him. And I'm with you. I mean, K-State's turned out some nice corners. Juju Brents is obviously still playing in Indy. He'll have a big role again this year. K-State's turning them out right now. So I think this is a good spot for Parrish.
The Kansas City Chiefs are all but likely done for day 2 of the draft. Hard to see a move that gets them back into the third round. The Chiefs now have the 133rd overall pick in the 4th round. They've also got the 164th pick overall. That's a 5th rounder that they got in the trade with Philadelphia yesterday. Also 3 7th round picks for the Chiefs. 226 is the first of them. There's also 251 and, of course, Mr. Irrelevant, 257. Those are the picks still on the board for the Chiefs. And at this point, I kind of feel like they'll make them all. I don't know that there is going to be much compulsion to do much moving up. Maybe in the 4th round, use one of those 7th round picks as a sweetener. But otherwise, I think that once you get into day 3, it's a lot more letting the board come to you. And I think Brett Veach will be content to do that, having gone defense in this day 2 of the draft, selecting Omar Norman Lott out of Tennessee to fill a void at defensive tackle, Ashton Gelati from Louisville to address edge depth, and Noel Williams, the cornerback out of Cal.
Man, Ashton Gelati, his media availability on Zoom after he was picked was awesome. He's like standing in his street outside. Must have had a party inside. He's standing out in the street. You got great personality. I really enjoyed listening to it. Our buddy Matt Derrick posted it over on X. If you want to check it out, it's about 9 minutes. He was saying, this is fascinating. His mom was his first strength and conditioning coach and got him into CrossFit, like as a kid teenager. So he was joking around like, yeah, man, like I had great legs. I had no upper body strength. Like I don't do bench. It's really funny. If you get a chance to check it out, I'd recommend. He's a fun personality. I'm a sucker for this kind of thing. Like, is it necessarily the smartest football thing? No, but you give me a prospect who all of a sudden is like funny and a great interview and stuff like that. Like, man, I buy all the way in on that stuff. So I'm in on Gelati. I'm all for it at this point. He's a lot of fun.
Shedeur Sanders is going to get drafted, right? Like somebody is going to take him at some point, right? Because you've now reached the point of the draft where obviously this continues to be the big story. I guarantee you there has never been a player sit at the very top of Mel Kiper's best available list longer than Shedeur Sanders has. I think he went to the top of that list after pick number 4 or 5, and he's still there as the Rams prepare to pick 90th overall. You're to a point with Shedeur Sanders that if you draft him now, you're obviously drafting him to be a backup. And
yeah,
the way that Shedeur Sanders carried himself through the draft process, acting like he was above the whole thing, and he was surely going to go in the top 5. And remember what his dad said? It was going to be an Eli. It was going to be an Eli. They were going to be some places they were going to make sure they didn't go. Well, right now it might be the reverse Eli. It might be Coach Prime calling up saying, somebody better take my boy. This is going to be really embarrassing if somebody doesn't take my son. So go ahead and make a prediction while we're here on the 580 Sports Talk NFL Draft-stravaganza Part 3. Make a prediction. Where does Shedeur end up and win? Does it happen tonight, or does he have to wait
92 overall. 92 overall to the Seahawks.
I have seen some predictions that Seattle would take a quarterback. If they do, I think it's Milroe. I think they would go Milroe before they would go Shedeur.
Yeah, I've seen some Rams stuff too that, you find the replacement for Matthew Stafford. Jordan Rodriguez, who covers the Rams for The Athletic, I thought it an interesting point a couple of days ago. Like, he's always kind of flirted with the idea Sean McVay has of a mobile quarterback. Bryce Perkins, they brought in intentionally as a backup a couple years ago. He was terrible at the NFL level, but he's always kind of thought about, what if we got someone who's got some legs? And I sort of think that Milroe is more multiple Clay than Shedeur Sanders is. I think you can still kind of steer Milroe's development in a more intentional direction, whereas I think Sanders' skill set just is what it is, and maybe that's not fair. And if I'm being too harsh, I'm happy to be called out for it. But I just don't know how much malleability there still is with his skill set and what his development would look like. So if the Rams use pick 90 here, or they have a compensatory pick later in the 3rd round, maybe they're an option, but it's not looking like it's going to happen tonight if it doesn't happen here soon. The other teams that are on the board, like Cleveland, maybe they have a pick coming up. Seattle, I don't really see it.
Well, now we have to stay on the stream until Seattle picks 92nd just to see if they do go that direction. And either A, we'll see if Spencer's a prophet, and B, we'll get my honest reaction to it as it happens if my favorite team picks Shedeur Sanders. Apparently on NFL Network, I'm still watching the ESPN broadcast, but apparently on NFL Network, they are openly wondering if Shedeur Sanders can just go back to school. He cannot, but then again, who knows what the NCAA eligibility rules are?
He can go file an injunction on Monday.
Yeah, see if he gets a Jet Elad extension there.
I thought he was going to the Steelers when the Steelers just had that pick where they picked I think it was a tight end. I thought that they were going to do it. They're because they were the team, right? They were the team to potentially get him because they don't really know what their quarterback situation is. So why not use a 3rd round pick on him if he was still there? That was I
think thought. Spence, I think that's totally fair. We do have another pick in. So the Rams, at least with their first pick in the 3rd round, not going to be a quarterback. They're going with Josiah Stewart, edge rusher from Michigan, transferred in from Coastal Carolina. You want to talk about productive? How about 30 career sacks in college? That is a huge number for a college player.
He was a beast at Coastal Carolina and transferred in. Yeah.
Yeah. And Baltimore is about to pick next year. May I take a moment to talk about a pick that I loved, absolutely freaking loved?
Do it.
Houston went into this draft needing 2 things desperately. They had to get offensive, starters on the offensive line, and they needed wide receiver help because no more Stephon Diggs. He's gone. And then Tank Dell probably out for most of, if not the entire season, because of that grotesque injury he suffered against the Chiefs. So what do? They took 2 of my very favorite wide receivers in the whole draft. They were college teammates, another pro teammates, Jaden Higgins and Jalen Knoll from Iowa State. Dude, I love that. CJ Stroud is a perfect quarterback to throw to the 2 of them. I think that's so smart by Houston that it turned a major negative, and even with Nico Collins, who's a legit number 1, but a real negative into what I think is a positive with a pair of rookies. I love what Houston did there.
Yeah, that's really neat that they'll get to continue to play together. And they've really beefed up that wide receiver room. They felt like they had a really good one going into last year, and injuries sort of torpedoed it. And they're going to have to protect CJ Stroud. They got to still work on that aspect of it, keep CJ Stroud upright, the pressure rate that he's faced. his first couple of seasons really hasn't been acceptable. But they're certainly on the right track when it comes to giving him pieces on the outside to get the ball to and be explosive in that way. So I've really liked I've liked Houston's draft as a whole. I think they've done, they did good business. They moved out, traded down with the Giants. They were happy to do that and let the Giants go get Jackson Dart. I like it. I like what Houston's done quite a bit. I think it's been a pretty good. There haven't been a lot of picks. Nick Martin for the 49ers is one that's had me scratching my head, or 2 third-rounders from the Lions, 2 third-rounders, so they can move up and get Isaac Tesla from Arkansas. That was
Elon's boy.
me. Yeah, I don't know much about Tesla, but I hear he's explosive. I hear I hear he can really catch fire.
Nice. So that was a popular day 3 Packer pick. I can tell you that because he was a crazy athletic tester, didn't touch the ball a lot at Arkansas. The earliest, I'm not kidding, the earliest I saw him in any mock draft was like late 6th round. I cannot believe he went as a top 70 pick. I mean, I'm happy for the guy, but I cannot believe he was a top 70 player. And I mean, the Lions get the benefit of the doubt because Brad Holmes has been a great drafter recently, but whoa. I was very surprised there.
Sean Alexander is announcing the Seahawks pick at number 92. We'll see if Spencer is a prophet.
I'm a prophet at position, not player.
The Seahawks are selecting. Well, there's some excitement from those. It is Jalen Milroe. Milroe. All
right, Dan.
If they were going to draft a developmental quarterback, and they need to, because Sam Darnold is buns, and they're going to be looking for another quarterback after they figure out that he's buns.
And it ain't Drew Lock.
Jalen Milroe is so athletic. If you think you can teach him the finer points of playing quarterback, he is a special athlete at the position. It's not that he doesn't have like arm talent. It's just like really like refining the nuances of playing the position. And like, that's a hard thing to learn, but if you're going to learn it, you better learn it as a backup. So he comes in with no expectation to start. He comes in with no expectation that he's going to push Sam Darnold for the starting job right away. They committed the money to Darnold. This is the guy coming in to back up, but his athleticism is off the charts at the position. And if there's a ceiling there, there's a very real high ceiling for Jalen Milroe, but it's also a floor that is he never sees the field because he just can't really play.
Well, so a couple thoughts here. One, NFL Network has a graphic up right now of the Seahawks quarterback room. I'm not as low on Darnold as you are, Dan, but he's clearly not like a franchise quarterback. I mean, that's obvious. The other quarterbacks are Sam Howell and Drew Lock, and then Jalen Milroe. Like I know they're probably going to like officially make him the third string quarterback this year, but like, man, there's some real potential to get playing time like pretty quickly if you're Milroe. But I actually think with Clint Kubiak as the offensive coordinator there and the play caller, which means that you're going to be running Shanahan stuff. Shanahan and Kubiak go, they're like peanut butter and jelly. I think, like I said, you have more room to kind of mold what he can be as a passer because, I mean, he's a crazy athlete. The next gen stats prospect score for athleticism was a 99. I don't know if they give 100s. It was a 99 for Jalen Milroe. He's incredibly fast. He's got a massive arm. It's not a matter of arm talent. It's a matter of like, can you put the ball where it needs to go? And I think in that kind of offense, the easy button offense, if you will, with that Shanahan wide zone, easy check down kind of stuff, I think that can be very successful for Milroe, and mobile quarterbacks have had a lot of success in that system before. I don't know that it will work because I don't know that he can put it together. You never know. But I think of any potential situation, one like, and I don't love Clint Kubiak, but I think of any kind of situation, I think that's a good fit.
I don't have the audio on, but Mel Kiper Jr. looks like he's about to have a stroke.
Yeah.
He's going to turn a shade of red that I'm not frankly familiar with. I'm sure it's in regards to a certain quarterback. Cause you know what? None of these other quarterbacks that have been drafted already have their number retired.
I was thinking about this because Rich Eisen had a whole thing yesterday where he was freaking out about it. And like, okay, a little over the top. I like Rich Eisen, but it also makes sense because he worked with Dion for like a decade. They're probably tight. They've probably been talking. Like, okay, I get that. The hell, what's Mel Kiper's connection? Like, what is he on the payroll? What is this?
Maybe he is. Maybe he. Yeah, I don't understand why Mel Kiper Jr. showing his ass on behalf of the Coach Prime family, but that's his choice. He also said he would quit if Jimmy Clausen didn't become a great NFL quarterback, and
here we are, like
he said he would quit.
17 years later, or whatever it is.
The checks were a little too good.
Funny thing about Sean Alexander announcing Jalen Milroe's pick, he called him his nephew, and then he proceeded to say Jalen Milrose.
Well, they both went to Alabama, so that's the connection there, I suppose.
But he called him Jalen Milrose.
The Saints have just selected safety out of Virginia, Jonas Sanker. I don't have anything on him.
The polio guy?
Yes, Jonas Sanker. Yeah, invented the polio. I believe that's actually getting word. That's Jonas Salk.
Oh,
who's the polo guy? Anyhow, we'll go ahead. We'll wrap this one up. It's getting close to 10 o'clock.
Wait, can we wait? Can we wait till the Browns pick?
Just in case it's Shador? Yes.
All right. I'm fine. I'm cool with that.
I'm good with that.
Because that's the other possibility that it could be.
Well, then real quick, while we have a moment, I gave my favorite pick in the third round. I love Houston double dipping with the Iowa State receivers. Who's your favorite fit from the third round? Dan, why don't you go first?
My favorite fit from the third round. I got to call the picks back up again here. I think that Princely Umamilian to Carolina is outstanding. Carolina went wide receiver with their first pick. They went with Tetairoa McMillan, and a lot of people looked at that and said, what are you doing with offense? You had the worst defense in the league last year. Well, they've addressed defense on day two, and I think they've gotten a couple of really nice finds. Umamilian in the third round is really good value for the Carolina Panthers, so good for them. That would be mine.
Spencer?
I think it's got to be my own team here. It's Trey Amos.
Oh, we're talking round three.
Oh, round three.
Yes.
Round three?
Yeah.
Let me pull back up round three here.
No, that's fine.
I think it's. Oh, I like Dylan Fairchild, the guard for the Bengals. Get yourself an interior offensive lineman, guy from Georgia who is not a bad guy that went to Georgia, a real good player and a real good person, it appears. Like, you got yourself a good interior offensive lineman.
I had mocked the Bengals to take a guard in round one, so yeah, they needed to address that offensive line, and I think they did get a good one.
I also like Wyatt Milam,
yeah.
Milam, yeah. I like him going to the Jaguars. He was projected a second, or probably a late first to early third, and he went late third.
Yeah, I was a little surprised that it took Milam as long as it did. Really good player at West Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
So we're waiting on the Browns pick at 94.
Their pick is in. We're on commercial.
Yeah, commercial break. They're gonna delay it, and then the Browns are gonna take not even a quarterback.
If you have it spoiled on social media and you're seeing this, do not put it in the comment section. Thank you. One note I wanted to bring up on the Chiefs defensive end they took earlier on here to start off the third round, Ashton Gelati. I've got his relative athletic score in front of me. So he is actually not as big as I had given him credit for. But he's got an elite vertical jump, broad jump, the 40-yard dash ran a 4.85 as an edge. That's a good number. His shuttle and three-cone drills were great. I mean, he's a hell of an athlete.
The Browns remain on the clock. Again, the Chiefs selection, they were going to be on deck. If you're just tuning in on the 580 Sports Talk NFL Draft-stravaganza, they were going to pick 95th, but they moved up, traded a future fourth-round pick, not their own, Chicago's fourth-round pick from 2026 that they received in return for Joe Thuney. That pick goes to New England, and the Chiefs moved up 10 spots to get Noel Williams from Cal, a cornerback to really fortify that cornerback room.
Yeah, real quick, I just want to say I really like the way that Veach has moved around the board today. I mean, that fourth rounder, again, you're moving the Joe Tooney essentially for a prospect who could be a starting corner for you. I'm happy with that move. And again, you got a 5th round pick for nothing yesterday. You moved back one spot to let the Eagles take a player that was never going to be in consideration at the end of the first round for you when they moved up and got Jahad Campbell and the Chiefs got Josh Simmons. So you add a 5th. In terms of next year's picks, you're pretty much a wash at this point. I give Brett Veach credit because however the players turn out, I think the process of moving up and down the board has been very steady.
Yeah, I would agree with that 100%. I think it's been very sensible, and I think that their depth has been very, very fortified by the draft picks.
Are you up with the pick yet, Brendan?
I am seeing it. Dan's behind us. So we're going to let Dan react here.
Dylan Gabriel
goes off the
board. So they showed Gabriel's draft party on ESPN just before the pick. Dylan Gabriel got drafted before Shedeur Sanders.
Dude, what did he say in his interviews at the Combine? Like, that's the only thing we've heard. Like, oh yeah, they were a nightmare. What did he say? Like this, Dylan Gabriel, come on.
Yeah.
That, man, I don't know. Like this, if this were happening to anybody else who'd shown an ounce of humility in the pre-draft process, this would be a little bit sad. But it's not, because Shedeur and family, it should be said, daddy's driving the bus. Daddy's made all the moves and called all the shots for Shedeur his whole life. He's made all the moves. He's called all the shots. He's put him in the positions. He's gotten him on the teams he wanted to get him on and got him the players he wanted him to play with and got him the assistant coaches that he wanted to have coach him. And this is the one thing that Coach Prime does not control any longer. He does not control who drafts his son. But they tried to act like they were above the whole process. They skipped all the pro day stuff. They tried to act like, hey, you've seen the tape. You know what it is. You know what it is. It's Shedeur Sanders. It's Coach Prime's son. He's been preordained for all of this. They were so sure. All of them were so sure he was going to go in the top 5. In fact, they were going to manipulate where it was that they went in the top 5. It was going to be an Eli. That's a quote from Deion Sanders. It's going to be an Eli. Well, maybe there's another Eli I don't know or remember because they didn't get drafted, but maybe that's the Eli that they meant, because Dylan Gabriel, who I do not think, and I know, Brendan, you're even more down on him than I am, but I did not think he was a particularly special college player, even though he put up those ridiculous numbers because he played 8 years of college football. I never thought he was a particularly special player, and he is – a team would rather bring someone like that in to be their backup quarterback than bring somebody like Shedeur Sanders and everything that comes with him to be their backup. That is what it comes down to at this point. That is what might keep Shedeur undrafted, like, for a while. Like, I don't know he's hearing his name called tonight. Like, that was the spot.
I watched Dylan Gabriel play in the 2019 Bad Boy Mowers Gasparilla Bowl for UCF. That's how old this guy is.
Yeah, he's a Tyler Shuck. I mean, he's 100 years old. Dan, I mean, you've heard me on Sports Talk for years now talk about how low I am. I don't think Gabriel's anything special at all. I think he's point and shoot, never really showed a whole lot of arm. Like, I'm not a Gabriel fan at all. I don't really see a path to him being a full-time starter in the NFL, which I do for Sanders, like, especially at this point. And I'm not a huge Shedeur guy. I've said that throughout the draft-stravaganza, but I can see a world in which he's a starting quarterback. Like, you go into week 1 and Shedeur Sanders is your starting quarterback. I can't see that with Dylan Gabriel. I'm floored, man. I really am surprised. We real quick pick update here. The New England Patriots just picked at 95. They took center Jared Wilson from Georgia. This is a really bad center class. There's like barely anyone.
Yeah, he's the best one.
Yeah, certainly. So the good move for the Patriots. They need to replace David Andrews. We also have a question here. I'll pose it to you guys from Corbin in the YouTube comments. Corbin, thanks for hanging out with us tonight. Do you think the Chiefs can get Xavier Watts, the safety from Notre Dame, all the way with pick whatever it is, 133 in the 4th round?
I'd be surprised if he were still there. at that point. I think
Mhm.
certainly it'd be real good value. I don't know that we haven't seen safety mocked to the Chiefs in the middle rounds. Really, more commonly, that's been a seventh round scenario for the Chiefs. They still need to address skill positions. I think they're more likely to do that fourth, fifth round than they are to go safety, personally. And also, I'd be really surprised if Watts were there. So to answer your question one of two ways, I don't think he'll be there. So no, I don't think they can get him with that pick. But even if he were there at that pick, I would still expect the Chiefs to look in the direction of a wide receiver or a running back with their fourth round pick and their fifth round pick.
Oh,
Yeah, I
well,
mean,
perfect timing. The Atlanta Falcons just drafted Notre Dame safety Xavier Watts. So
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
With
No,
pick
I was
number
gonna-
96.
I was going to say, I think if you're the Chiefs, you really like what Jaden Hicks showed last year, and you're anticipating him to be your strong side safety. Brian Cook, obviously a second round pick for 22, and you bring Mike Edwards back, you have Deion Bush. So I don't necessarily think you draft a guy that early. Maybe you draft a guy late in the seventh round.
So we've dragged this out, and Shedeur Sanders did not go at 94, and this is the story now. Do you think we can wait to 98 and see if Vegas takes him? Because that's a place where they could maybe look for a developmental quarterback. And if somebody is not going to mind bringing the circus to town, Pete Carroll ran a circus for a decade in Seattle. Everything about the Seahawks was a circus, and they were good, and they won a lot of football games, but they were a circus. And so I don't think he would mind too much.
No, it's so Pete Carroll and it's so Raiders to go in that spot with Shedeur Sanders. We got a trade, by the way. Houston's moving up. They're going to pick 97th here. Then the Raiders pick twice back to back. So
let's
two bites at the apple here.
Yeah, let's hang out and see what the Raiders do at 98, 99. Because usually you would say that and think, oh, they're going to do something funny because they're the Raiders. But no, man, competent leadership goes a long way. Owen
They've had a
Daniels.
good draft. We talked about that at the end of part two. I think
Yeah.
they've had a really good draft so far.
I do too. Owen Daniels looking spry in his
Svelte,
playing days.
man.
Yeah, he's definitely.
Thin.
Yeah, he doesn't look like a tight end, does he? He looked like a guy who played wide receiver or punter.
He was a nice player.
Yeah, Owen Daniels had some good years. He did.
Right. They are not going to go quarterback. I think we probably right.
Jalen Smith, a corner from USC, is the pick at number 97. Vegas is a team that could use a corner, and I wonder if that's why the Texans moved ahead of them.
Mm-hmm.
Vegas released Jack Jones, so they're short a corner. Excuse me. And I wonder if that's one of the directions that Vegas looks at 98, 99 is at cornerback.
That's a good thought, Dan. Jones he's such a talented player, but God, he's a head case. He's like true Raider defensive back head case extraordinaire. Obviously he's an ex-Raider at this point. Yeah, man, I'm so curious where they're going to end up going here. I mean, because the rest of the round, you're looking at 2 picks for Vegas, the Niners. Now, that would be a complete calamity. Can you imagine bringing him into San Francisco right as you're about to pay Brock Purdy? You want to talk about a circus?
What if they don't pay Brock Purdy?
No, they're paying Brock Purdy. Yeah.
Oh, I know they will.
I've already given up the ghost on that one. I thought for a long time they weren't going to do it. I've already given up the ghost on that idea.
But then you've got Philadelphia, who is set. They don't need to worry about it. And then the final pick of the third round, final compensatory pick, is Minnesota. And you're not going to make your backup to young J.J. McCarthy to Shedeur Sanders. Like that. Yeah, that's ludicrous. So unless someone trades back in, I mean, it's one of these 2 Raiders picks, or he's waiting until tomorrow. If he even goes tomorrow, maybe he's just not going to go at this point.
Yeah, he's going to refuse and go to the XFL draft or a UFL draft and be the top player in the UFL.
As a spring football aficionado, I would freaking love it. Suddenly, I would become a massive Shedeur Sanders fan if he showed up playing for the Memphis Showboats.
Yeah, what if they allowed him to enter the league this week?
Hell, dude, they should. If you had a chance to bring that dude and that media attention into the league tomorrow, you do it without question.
The Rock and Deion.
There you go.
The Rock was the guest picker in when they were at College Game Day.
That's true.
So,
yeah,
the
we're on to
Raiders
the
pick
final,
is in at 98.
Yeah, final 5 picks of the round here.
Are they going to call them both at the same time, you think? Or do they?
No, they're not allowed to.
That'd be dope.
I wish they could, though.
Well, the 98th pick.
Dan, do you
Also,
know
the 99th pick.
if your new quarterback, Jalen Milroe, did he stick around till today, or did he leave the green room yesterday?
That's a great question. I did not see him out on the stage, so I presume he went home.
Yeah.
All right.
We got in full commercial on ESPN2. No ticker.
Yeah, this is a full break here.
No ticker.
All right. Man, the internet is completely melting down over Sanders.
Did you see Stephen A's tweet?
No, I don't know that I have him muted, but I definitely do not follow.
He added the wrong. He added Shador, but it's Shador Sanders' X account is not at Shador.
That's pretty funny. That is pretty funny. We also today, during coverage of day 2 of the draft, got a full-on promo from Seth freaking Rollins of WWE
we did.
Fame. He's from Iowa. He's from Davenport, Iowa, but he's a big Bears fan. So he came out and cut a promo on the Packers, which I respect it. He's coming off a WrestleMania win. I respect it.
Hey, did you see your KU Jayhawks baseball team tonight?
I did not, in fact, Spencer.
8 2/3 scoreless from Dominic Vogel?
Vogel. Yeah. Oh, he's
Vogel.
a stud. He
8
is a
2/3. 6 hits, 5 strikeouts.
Yeah, he's a heck of a pitcher. He will be playing on a major league roster someday. I'm pretty darn confident about that.
All right, Raiders pick is up here.
Here
on
we
my,
go. Thanks to everybody who's hanging out with us, by the way, tonight. Corbin for the question earlier. Our guy McFly is in there right now. Thanks to everyone who's stopped by for the draft-stravaganza.
Yeah,
these last
appreciate
couple of
you
days.
very much.
This has been fun, man. This has been a blast.
I got a buddy who's a CU fan who's apoplectic about Shador's slide, and I'm getting roasted for saying, hey, he wasn't a first-round talent to begin with. He wasn't.
Do you remember who I compared him to a few weeks ago?
No, but it was funny.
Spencer Rattler.
Yeah.
And I like Rattler. He was also a 5th-round pick.
Yeah. Yeah, in that draft.
Yeah.
Let's see. The Raiders' first of their 2 late 3rd-round picks here is not Shador Sanders. It is
Big 12.
Caleb Rogers,
right.
offensive tackle, Texas Tech.
One of the 4,000 players Texas Tech is replacing in the transfer portal this offseason.
Yes, with all of that oil money, they got quite a payroll at Texas Tech, as I understand it.
Yeah, they have a billionaire, I think a new money oil billionaire, if I remember correctly, who's kind of bankrolling the program now. I don't remember his name, though. I keep wanting to say Cody Clements, but that's Rogers' kid, and he does not have that kind of money.
You got somebody bankrolling the program, and then you got Pat Mahomes paying for all the facility upgrades. Like, what else could you need?
Yeah, right. All right, so, okay, spin zone here. This is my Mel Kiper spin zone. They just they took a guard because they got to protect their new quarterback, Sanders, here.
Yeah, pick is in. Second pick's in.
All right, so we've got 5 quarterbacks who are off the board so far. Ward went first, Dart, obviously, then Shuck, Milroe, Gabriel. I cannot believe Gabriel got taken on day 2, man. That's insane. That is insane.
Absolutely.
All right,
wild.
Steve Wisniewski, tell us the good news.
Steve Wisniewski, father of a former Chiefs Super Bowl champion. It is not Shador Sanders. It is another offensive lineman, Charles Grant, out of William & Mary.
Back-to-back linemen. That is crazy.
So Shedeur Sanders will have to wait till day 3 because he's not going to San Francisco. He's not going to Philadelphia. He's not going to Minnesota. That will be the storyline for another night. That's for sure. But that is where we'll leave it on the part 3 of the NFL Draft-stravaganza. Again, the Chiefs have 4 picks tomorrow. We'll recap the entire draft class on Monday's edition of 580 Sports Talk from 3 to 6 Central Time on 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, and these same video channels, 580 Sports Talk on YouTube, WIBW News on Facebook. For Brendan Wrzinski and Spencer Dupuis, I'm Dan Lucero. Thanks again for hanging out with us on the NFL Draft-stravaganza. We appreciate you so very much. Hope you have a great night, great rest of your weekend. We will talk to you on Monday.